We're delighted to have you here for our June Members Matter meeting. The topic for the day is maintaining your library facility, and we're delighted to have Kathy Parker here as our presenter. Kathy is the chief of Kathy Parker Consulting.
And the only?
Yeah, well, that's the word I was trying to get, Kathy. Previously, she was the director of the Glenwood-Linwood Public Library District. She's a founding mother of Directors U, the co-author with Kate Hall of the Public Library Directors Toolkit, and the just released Public Libraries Directors HR Toolkit.
Hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses. We're delighted to have Kathy here. Kathy has done presentations on library facilities for DU for a number of years. So we're happy to have her at IHLS to share her expertise with us. So with that, Kathy, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Ellen. I appreciate it. Here, let me share my screen so we can get started. And let me do that. So thank you. I don't have to do my whole introduction, which is great. But thank you, Ellen. I have enjoyed, I'm glad that Anna reached out to have me speak. I do appreciate that immensely. Oh, sorry, I'm still trying to get my view here. So as Ellen said, I have done presentations on buildings before. I had the opportunity to build a library when I was a director at Glenwood-Linwood Library. I loved it. If I could build a library every year, I would do it. So you can't do one every year, unfortunately, but if you could, I would. And like I said, I loved it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the process and things you need to know about your facilities. So I'm going to bypass the part. Hold on here. Let me get this going here. Now, all of a sudden, it's not working. Okay, here we go. We don't need to know. You know who I am now. So what I'm going to talk about today is getting to know your building, so getting to know your building and things to kind of look out for. I am going to talk about the importance of maintaining your building and how important that is to make sure you keep up on that, because you don't want to have to look at large bills down the road. And then also I'm going to keep key people in your facility in the know about the building and things regarding it. So let's get started. And of course, if anyone has any questions, share them in chat. If I don't get to them during, I'll answer them later, and then we can just do a question answer after as well. So your library facility is the largest physical asset of your library. It is going to cost a lot of money to maintain it over the years. A lot of that is going to be dependent on how old your building is. If you have an old building, it's going to cost a lot of money. If you have a newer building, it's not going to cost as much money, but it's going to continue to increase as your building ages. A lot of people are going to walk through your building through its lifetime. Buildings are meant to last, especially public buildings. They're meant to last for decades, albeit centuries. We have a lot of Carnegie libraries still in Illinois, and I'm currently working at one, and they're beautiful. But they require a lot to maintain. And a lot of people, I think about all the people who have walked into that library from the time it was built in like early 1900s to now. So it's important to make sure that it is maintained, that you're cleaning it, you're taking care of the regular repairs. There may be, you're going to probably need to do replacements and remodels of things. And you need to be proactive on maintaining this facility. Again, it's your largest physical asset, and you're going to spend a lot of money on it. So how do you do that? The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you get to know your building. If you're a library director, and I'm going to assume we have more than library directors here, we probably have facility managers, library staff, but you need to know your building, even if you're not the library director. If you are the director, you need to become familiar with the ins and outs of the library, from your physical building, your envelope, which is the building portion that is your bricks and your mortar, and all your grounds as well. You want to make sure you know where all of your outlying property is. If you are lucky enough to have a maintenance person who takes care of your building, that is great. I do realize that there are a lot of libraries that aren't that lucky. that you may be the maintenance person, or it may be, if you're in a small rural library, it may be someone is donating their time to cut the grass, or you may have your child do it during the summer. So, but you want to make sure you know your building in and out. You are the one that may be responsible for calling all of the repair people. You need to understand what they're talking about and where they are in the process. And then regardless of who is responsible for taking care of your library, if you're the library director, you are the person who is responsible for the final responsibility. You have to tell the board where everything about the building. They have to approve any work that has to be done, that it's a major. So it's good to be able to know everything about your building as much as you can, and be able to articulate that to them in a way that they're going to understand. If you are a manager or a staff member, it's just good to really pay attention when you are in your building. If your library director is not available and you see an issue that is arising, like there's a trip and fall, you should let them know that, because they need to be aware of that so they can take care of it. You want to do, if you're a manager or library director and facilities manager, I'm sure you're doing this all the time, you want to do a good walkthrough of your building at least once a year. Kind of note things that are changing. Take a look at all of the different parts of the structure. If you have a brick structure, is your mortar, is it cracking? Because if it is, this could cause water intrusion inside the building. Look around your windows and your doors. If there is, see if the caulk is still good, because the caulk is a way to prevent water from coming in the building at the door frames and the window frames. Again, water is horrible for libraries, horrible for buildings, but horrible for libraries too. So you want to make sure you're taking care of that. When you're walking around, look to see how your gutters are. Are they clogged? If they are, make sure you get the gutter debris removed. Walk around your grounds. Make sure you don't have any trip hazards, and that your pavement doesn't have big potholes in it, because that could cause damage to your cars. That you don't have concrete that's popping up, because a person will trip and fall. If it's me and I'm there, I will trip and fall, because I fall everywhere. So just be sure to check all that. If you are a library director and you've just started, you want to take a tour of your building within the first month or so, just to kind of get familiar. If you're a newer staff member, again, kind of walk around the building and kind of become familiar with it. You do want to know who is in charge of cutting your grass and who plows your parking lots. Is this your responsibility? A lot of times, like if you're a city library, the city will take care of that for you. The public works may do it, or your village may have an agreement with them to do it, but you may be responsible for it, and you need to know that. Not only just to make sure that it gets done, but you also need to know when you're doing budgeting, how you're going to budget for those circumstances. And then if you have the opportunity, you also want to take your board through the building. They need to be aware, because as you're having a conversation with them and you're talking about the sprinkler system and that there's a leak, and they don't really understand that, by taking them through the building and seeing all of the components that you are seeing, then that will give them a better idea when you're talking to them about a large bill or an issue that comes up. Also, if you have a building that's kind of a nightmare, that will help them understand, because if you're asking for money or you're trying to plan for monies for repairs down the road, if they see that you have huge leaks in your basement or that you have duct tape holding things together, they're going to understand that better. And by seeing that, it's going to give them a real life view of what you're dealing with on a regular basis. So you want to get to know all of your building systems. And what I mean by this is your building, much like your home, has mechanical systems in it. You have plumbing, electrical, you have your heating and air conditioning. You want to know where they all are, what they all are. And again, if you have a maintenance person, they can walk you through this. But if you don't, you might want to ask your vendors. Eventually, everyone should have vendors that are working on their building at some point. And so you want to make sure to ask your vendors when they're coming out, have a conversation with them, kind of watch what they're doing, have them explain where the chiller leads to and how it works throughout the building. And this will help you have a better idea of what your library actually is encompassing as far as their library systems. We cannot survive without these building systems in our facilities. So you do need to know about them. So who knows what HVAC is? Hopefully you all do. It's heating, ventilation, air conditioning. We all hopefully have at least heating in our facilities. I know some libraries may not have central air, but I hope we do at this point. I don't know how we're surviving without central air these days, especially the last 2 days. It's been so horribly hot and miserable. So your HVAC system, you know, it's your heating and your air conditioning. You may have a boiler, you may have a chiller. Depending on the type of building you have, you may have forced air, or if you have a boiler chiller, you have water running through and working on those systems. You want to know where all of your thermostats are for your HVAC system and how they work. Some libraries are very sophisticated and they may have everything that you can do on your phone with an app. I'm a little old school. I never really wanted to do any of that. I don't really know how to do it, to be honest. I'm just not that tech savvy. I like an old-fashioned thermometer. You just turn up or down. And so you want to know where all of those thermostats are, how they control. If you have a large building, you may have multiple units in your building, even a smaller building. I know I built a 20,000 square foot facility and I had 6 HVAC units on my roof. I know a lot of libraries are much smaller. They may have one library that I was working with in Rails. Their library is fairly small and they have like a home heating system. And I was kind of surprised. I had never seen that before because I'm like, why are you only paying a couple $1,000s to get this repaired? It should be like 20,000. And then she showed me like, oh, you have a home system because it used to be a home. So I'm like, that made perfect sense. So, but you need to know what you have and where all the controls are for it and make sure that you know, if necessary, where the filters are, how to change them, things of that nature. The next thing we have running through our buildings is water. We need our water obviously for restrooms, for water fountains. If you have sprinklers, you need it for sprinklers. But the one thing you want to do is you want to make sure you know where all of your shutoff valves are for your water. You know, as we know, water can do a lot of damage to library books. And if there's a leak, it will not only damage, you know, your books, but also water damages structures very badly. If you don't take care of it, a leak can cause more problems with disintegration of the materials. You can get critters of unwanted nature. Apparently, I did not know this. Cockroaches love water. So I've discovered that recently. And they are hard to get rid of when they have found a place they really like to be when it's wet. So you want to know where all of your shutoff valves are. You're going to have a situation where you're going to have to shut off the water and you need to know quickly. And you can't just go and say, oh, let me get the plans out and look for it or ask someone. You need to know where it is. The next thing we have is electric. We all have electric running through our buildings. Thankfully, we're not going with gas lighting or, you know, Laura Ingalls Wilder times where we had lanterns. So you want to know where your electrical panels are. If you have a larger facility, do you have more than one panel? Some buildings are split in 2 where they may have part of the one panel handling one part of the building, one panel handling the other. So you want to know where those are at and how to use them. Some libraries, newer libraries, have very sophisticated electrical panels. I'm kind of old fashioned. I just need a switch, turn on and off. I'm kind of just bang, 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 click them off. Do you have parking lot lights? And if so, are they on timers? And do you know how to change them when the time changes? Because there's nothing worse than the time changing and it gets dark at 3:30, 4 o'clock and your parking lot lights are not due to come on until 7 or 8. So you want to make sure you know where those timers are so that you can change them. And then do you know where your electrical meters are and where those services are coming into the building? You need to know where that is as well. You aren't necessarily responsible for reading those meters, but it's good to know where they're at so that if you ever have to refer to them in any way. And you might not think you have to until you call the electric company about something and they ask you to look at the meter. So it will happen at some point. And then I hope that everyone has some type of fire suppression system. If you do you have a sprinkling system, which is water, or do you have a halon, which is a powder, which is a safer part? It does less damage to your books, but it's also very expensive. So, or sometimes a building may be so old that they don't have a sprinkling system or a fire suppression system. And this could happen if you haven't done a remodel or a renovation. It may not be part of your building. So, but if you do a remodel or renovation, you do have to bring it up to code, and they will require that you put in a suppression system. But hopefully everyone has one, because it's important to have something that is going to help put a fire out in case there is one. And then we all have utilities. We know we have electrical, we know we have plumbing, but some libraries may have gas, natural gas. So you also are going to have your phone systems coming in and internet at some point in some capacity. So you need to know, again, where these utilities are coming into your building and where those meters, if any, are located. And if you do have, like with your electrical or your gas, is your library part of a village cooperative for those services, and do you get a lesser rate or perhaps free, which would be great? Or is your library responsible for paying for those utilities themselves? So a lot of times, if you're part of a village or a city cooperative, that could be a huge savings, because electric can be very, very expensive. I'm working in a library now that built an addition on, and they have 2 electric bills and 2 gas bills, because somehow the mechanical engineers couldn't figure out how to match them together. I don't understand it. But the one bill in the new edition, which is ridiculous, is about $7,000 to $8,000 a month. And it's probably a 20,000 square foot addition. So it's a ridiculous amount of money. The other building, which is the old Carnegie part, their electric bill's like $50 a month. So it just shows the difference, that sometimes new buildings aren't necessarily less expensive. So it's just kind of interesting that how expensive these bills are. But you definitely want to know where the meters come in. Are you responsible for paying it, and things of that nature. And then hopefully we all have alarm systems in our building. Hopefully alarm, burglar, intrusion systems. If you do have a burglar or intrusion system, you need to know, does that alarm go directly to the police? Are you using a third-party company who controls the calls, and then they call the police or the fire when an alarm goes off? So you'll need to know that. Is your alarm, your burglar alarm, is it hardwired to the system? Is it like with an analog line and an analog phone? A lot of that is going away now. A lot of the phone companies are getting rid of analog lines. So they may be moving people to a digital or a radio or cell service. A lot of the companies up in the northern part of Illinois are moving to the cell service, which is a little cheaper too. So you have to want to check that and see how it's working. You want to make sure that your alarms are working at all times, that they are working, they are getting tested. You also have fire alarms. So not only with your sprinklers, but you have an alarm that lets people know when there is a fire in the building. Those should be tested. All alarms in your library building should be tested on a regular basis, at least annually, but a lot of departments will do it and villages will do it more often. So just make sure you're getting them tested. If your village is not doing testing for you, ask them. If they aren't cooperative and don't want to come out, you can have companies come out. You have to pay for it, unfortunately, but you have to have companies come out to make sure those alarms are working. There's nothing worse than having a fire alarm that won't go off when there's a fire. That is just, it's dangerous. You're putting your patrons and your staff in a very precarious situation. So you don't want to have that happen. So I don't know if everyone knows what this is, and hopefully you all have one, but it's called a Knox box. And what this is, and it's Knox, K-N-O-X. What this is, it is a box that is on the exterior of buildings, usually near the front door or the main door where people access. And as you can see with the gentleman with the key, fire departments usually should have a key for that box. And in that box should be the keys to the doors of your building. So in the event that there is an emergency, you don't want the firemen to just break your expensive doors or windows, because that's going to be a whole issue. If there's not a fire raging and the fire's not billowing out of the windows, if it's just something that's alarm, we don't know why, and you can't get there, they can get in your building without breaking in and damaging the structure to find out what's going on. When I built my new library, we had the alarm had gone off. And I was out of town, but I said, the key's in the box, just go in and see what it is, and then I'll contact someone. And what it was just, there was just the box, when they had come in to do some work, they had not connected the alarm completely the proper way, so the alarm kept going off. So something very minor, but because I had a key in the box for the library, they didn't have to break my door. And I, like I said, I was out of town, so I couldn't get there as it was. So just make sure that if you do have a box, check to see who has the key to get into it. Usually it's the fire department, and that there is a current key for your front doors or whatever door is necessary for them to get into the building. I am working in a library now that there's a Knox box and nobody has the key to it apparently. And the contractors had it when they built the renovation of the building, and nobody knows what's in there now. So I have to figure that out. Probably I'm going to take it out and replace it and put a new one in. Is what I'm going to do, because I have to start fresh. So Knox box, Knox. One of the other things you want to really think about is your building regarding accessibility. Is it accessible to people with different physical abilities? And if it isn't, is there anything that you can do to make it accessible? Now, a lot of things require renovations and remodels, but there are things like maybe moving some shelving so that the shelving is wide enough so that a person with a wheelchair or who has ambulatory issues can maneuver through. If you do a renovation or remodel and your building is not new or current and has been built prior to when the Americans with Disability Act was passed, and I think that was 94 or 86, I can't remember, I should know this. You want to, you will be required to make all of those renovations and remodels meet ADA requirements. That is not an option. So anything you do moving forward will become ADA accessible. If you don't have that, if you have not done a renovation remodel, you are not required to do that. So some people may have stairs and no elevator in their building because it's an old Carnegie building. But if you were to add an addition or do a remodel, you will be required to put an elevator in so that it is accessible to people. So just know that that is going to be a cost, and it could be a large cost depending on the building that you have. So just, kind of be prepared for that. If you are doing a remodel or a renovation and you're working with an architect, they're automatically going to do it. It's going to be part of the project. It's, we've been doing it for decades now. So you just want to know that you want to make sure that you can do that. And again, other things you can do right now, we've had, and the state library was doing a big push several years back about making our buildings and doing a lot of work for people who are autistic and have lighting and sensory issues. So can you do something simple with your building and changing your lighting out for people who have lighting and sensory issues? So there are things that you can do that aren't cost prohibitive, but yet still will make your building accessible to as many as possible. And then part of that accessibility is making sure that you have furniture, fixtures, and equipment for people of different abilities. So furniture, fixtures, and equipment, we call that FF&E in the construction world. When you get to build a library, that's what you're going to throw at FF&E all the time. So what FF&E is, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, is anything that is not physically tied to your building. So if you were to take your library building and turn it upside down, everything that falls out is FF&E. So it's not your envelope, it's not your systems. So those hopefully are attached to the building in some way. So, so this means it's all of your movable furniture. It's all of your fixtures, all of your equipment, like your copiers, your computers, your printers. All of these items, all of your FF&E get used a lot by your patrons. They're gonna, your furniture is gonna be used constantly. It's gonna get dirty. It will have to be cleaned, possibly repaired or replaced if it gets broken. A lot of libraries now are starting to purchase or recover furniture in upholstery that is non-porous. Things like vinyl or pleather, as we used to call it back in the day. So having furniture that is non-porous, it does a couple of things. First of all, it prevents stains, because sometimes there can be some bodily fluid stains on this furniture, or we've had libraries have had bed bugs in the past, and just kind of general germs. There's a lot of germs when people come in. We found with COVID, we were very conscious of the necessity of cleaning our buildings. And we probably cleaned our furniture more than we ever have. And our buildings were probably the cleanest they have ever been, other than the day they first opened. But this cleaning can take a real toll on our furniture. There's a lot of libraries have heavy wooden furniture. And if we're cleaning with harsh cleaning products, that has taken a toll on that wood finish. So a library I was working at recently, the staff, because we didn't have a lot of money, the staff actually went and sanded down all of the wooden arms of all the chairs and legs of the chairs, and we just kind of revarnished them. So because we didn't have the money, and they were just taking such a beating, and they found it as a fun project, which you got to give them credit, because I don't know if I found that fun, but they found it fun. It's a good bonding thing for them. So we just want to make sure that all this cleaning is taking a toll on our equipment. And we want, they may won't last as long because you're doing so much cleaning. So you want to be aware of that. Also know that, as patrons are using your copiers, your printers, things of that nature, they take a beating. People don't treat their public places like they do their home. Or sadly, some people do treat their public places like they do their home, which means their homes are probably not in the best shape. But, people will slam copiers and, bang on things if it's not working. And so, we have to make sure that all that stuff is maintained, because FF&E is expensive. And it's amazing how expensive commercial furniture is compared to home when you buy stuff for your home. It's very, very expensive. It's a huge part of when you're building a library building or a renovation. It's a huge part of that budget. It could be, a significant percentage of that budget. And then, like I said, you want to make sure that furniture is also accessible to people who have different abilities. As a person I have a tendency to fall a lot. I had a bad fall several years back. And, my dad always said, once you have a bad fall, you're always going to go down. And it's true. I mean, I'm not that old, but I had a bad fall and I'm always falling now. So I tend to need chairs or prefer chairs that have handles, because it's easier to not fall out of them, first of all, because I haven't been known to fall off a chair. I'm a bit of a dork, but it makes it for people who are older or who have some mobility issues to get up or sit down. You want to make sure that you have, if you can have countertops that may raise or lower or be accessible for people with wheelchairs to slide in under at your reference desk or your circ desk. So these are all things, again, that you may think about if you're doing a new building or a renovation, to make things accessible for people. And then also for people who have, maybe some sight issues or, like I said, sensory issues. So you just want to always think about that. As libraries are thinking more about inclusion and diversity and equity, it means for all people, not just people of different colors or different identities, but people even of physical abilities. So we just want to be aware of that. So one of the things that you need when you're working on your building is documentation. Buildings come with a lot of documentation. They have so many things. It's amazing. When you build a library, it seems like all you do is deal with paper. So one of the first things that you're going to want to make sure you have or you can locate is your buildings or your as-built, your blueprints or your as-built. So your blueprints are, those big rolls that contractors walk around with that you see, and they used to be blue, now they're white. And it shows all of the building and every portion of it and how it should be built. So that people who are building it or renovating it can follow those instructions and they can build that to the specifications of those blueprints. The as-built are these documents that once you have built the library, you've had changes, you may have had change orders. So once those change orders have been made on the original blueprint, they then become as-built because they show the way it was built during the process. So the original blueprint, there may have been a change. Let's just say that you wanted to rewire a room, you wanted to put in more electrical outlets because you decided in the middle of the project you needed more electrical outlets. So they would then add a bunch of electrical outlets and then change that particular page in the blueprints to show all those new outlets. So that then becomes your as-built. Now the blueprints are, while they do have them in paper, they also come electronically. So usually you have your as-built become electronic. And it's really great because you don't have to keep all those blueprints and you can just have it, either on your server, or your computer, or on a CD or a thumb drive, whatever works best. Your village or your city should also have a copy of those as-built and the blueprints, because they hopefully have been inspecting your building, and they are the ones that are they govern all the public buildings in your community. So I would definitely look to see if you can find your blueprints or your as-built and get to know them. If you're the library director and certainly the maintenance man, you may not need to know how to read them, page by page, but you should at least kind of look at them and understand, okay, this is the blueprints for the construction part of the project, the physical part. These are the blueprints for the plumbing schematics. These are the electrical schematics. This is the landscaping blueprint. You should be able to look through them and understand. Have them available. They should be in one central location where your maintenance person, if you have a facilities manager, can look at it, your director. And if you have contractors coming in or vendors, sometimes they may need to look at them to understand. If you have a plumber coming in and they're like, I can't figure out where this pipe is going because it's buried behind a wall or in the concrete of your foundation, they will get the blueprints out and they can kind of figure it out. So they're not, putting holes in the wall trying to fix that pipe. So it's important to have them and make them available. If you don't have them, don't worry. That happens a lot of times in older buildings. They may not be available. If you do have work done, make sure you get them. And oftentimes they may create them based on the best guess that they have of where things are at. So don't panic if you don't have them. You can't do anything about it. If you become a new library director and you're cleaning out that basement because it's a big old mess, if you get blueprints, don't throw them away. At least look at them and have someone go over them with you to make sure they're not the blueprints for the library. So they may be something for something else, but don't throw them away. If you want to get rid of all the old junk, but those are things you should not get rid of. The next thing you want to have is a vendor and a contract database. You want to know who all your vendors are in your facility and the work that they're doing. So you need to have contact lists for them, what they do, if they are, if you have a contract for them, if you have an HVAC vendor and you have a contract and they're supposed to come out quarterly, are they indeed doing that? You want to make sure that they're doing the work that they say they're doing. If they're supposed to be coming out quarterly to change the filters and look at the belts and things of that nature and check the Freon for your AC, then you want to make sure they're doing that. So part of this vendor and contract database, you can merge them or keep them separate, whatever makes you comfortable. But you want to also have in that the contract terms. So you want to know when your contract starts, when it ends, again, what the terms are they coming out quarterly, twice a year? Is the contract covering just the maintenance? Do you have repairs? Is it time and labor? So all of that will be spelled out in your contract. You also want to make sure to note that in your contract and in that database that you are creating, if it is a renewable contract, an auto renew, or if it's something you can when you can cancel. So I made the mistake of not reading my contract. I wasn't such a new director either. I should have done this. I should have known better. I know now. I did not read the renewal clause that said that if you don't cancel this contract within so many days of renewal, it automatically renews for an additional 5 years. I could not get out of that contract. And as soon as I could, I did. But so be careful of that. Most auto renews, it's a year, but some can be kind of prohibitive. So you want to check on that and make sure you know your terms. And you want to, like I said, you want to get to know your vendors. So I will tell you, when I first started as the library director at Glenwood Library, I had a maintenance man who died within 3 weeks of me starting. My building was a nightmare. If it was not for my vendors coming in, fortunately, he had a list of all the vendors. It wasn't in this fancy spreadsheet. He had it written down, which was fine. It did the work, but I was able to call, and my HVAC vendor specifically, they were amazing for me. We were like band-aiding our furnace and our HVAC system for years. And I will say that vendor, the guy who was servicing us, he drove by our library on his way home most days. And he knew, like, if it was a hot, humid day like we've had the last couple of days, that we were going to have problems in our building. He would like check on his way in when he would like drive by. He would come in and just check to make sure our system was working good. And he'd check on the way home. He was amazing. And if I had not asked him the questions I needed to ask, and if he was not there, I would have not been able to handle that situation. Because, 3 weeks into a new job where you're learning everything, and then your maintenance guy dies and you have no idea how to handle this nightmare of an HVAC, they were amazing. So get to know your vendors. They are going to know more about your building then you are going to know, because they're the ones that have been working at it probably for a long time. So another thing about having your vendor and your contract database, having all of your contract numbers and your expirations is going to be imperative for you when you're doing your budget, because you're going to have those numbers. And that way you won't have to be scrambling and trying to remember, oh, who does this and who does that. It's going to be in your database. So I can send Ellen a sample of a vendor and a contract database. I can do that later today. So if she wants to share that with you guys, I can do that. And then you want to have also a maintenance checklist. You know, while the vendors are coming out and they're doing their work, and some of them do maybe slap a sticker on that they've worked on that, you know, your unit and what day, and they may have when they come out again, but you have to keep track of that as well. So you want to have a maintenance checklist and make sure that all of the maintenance that you have contracted for is actually getting done and when it is getting done. So you can also use that to compare when you get your service tickets and you get your billing if you are being billed above and beyond general maintenance. So you want to have a checklist, and I can also send that to Ellen as well, because we have one set up. So you'll want to definitely have a checklist for that. And again, some of your vendors may automatically just slap something on the unit like the HVAC, but you want to be able to keep track of that yourself, because what if you are not there, or a library director is a new library director and the old one is not there? So you just want to make sure you have that for yourself. And then you have to think about the future needs of your library facility. Again, it's a huge part of your budget, and you need to think about keeping it maintained. And if you have your HVAC technician saying, you know what, you maybe can get 2 more years out of this system, but then you're going to have to replace it. You have to replace it. And what if it goes out sooner than you expected? It's a huge amount of money. You know, for depending on the size of your library, an HVAC system can be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. I don't know about you, but most libraries don't have that kind of money just laying around. So you really want to think about the future plans of your library, and what do you need to put aside for monies to pay for things. Also, you know, are you thinking, do you want to do a renovation? Do you need more space? Does your carpet, does it need to be replaced, or will it need to be replaced? You may need new windows. Maybe there's been an issue and there's been some cracks in the windows and you want to replace those. You need to, maybe they're not energy efficient. You can replace those. So you kind of want to start making a plan of all the things that you want to do that needs to be done. Put your needs before your wants, as always, and start planning for that. We call that a capital improvement plan. And so a lot of libraries have them. If not, you can create them. I, again, can send Ellen a sample one for you guys to look at and maybe start filling out. They take a long time to fill out, but they're well worth it. They're well worth it. If you're working on a new building or a renovation, but especially if you're getting the opportunity to build a new library, ask your architect to provide one for you, a capital improvement plan. A lot of architects weren't doing that for a while, a long time ago. When I built my library, my financial guy actually mentioned it, and I brought it up to my architect, and they had never done it before. So I was the first capital improvement plan that my architect did for my building, and now they do them all the time. So it's been kind of like a little bread and butter for them. So you definitely want to make sure you have, think about the future of where your library is going to be down the road, not only just in space, but in your mechanics as well. And then, like I said, all buildings come with paperwork, and you get a lot of manuals and warranties with all of the stuff. So you want to make sure you have them all in a very accessible area. You want to make sure that when you're maintaining your building, you're not violating your warranties. So you have to make sure that you're following your warranties. So you need to read them. They're not just a bunch of documents you throw in a box. You really need to read them and know what they are. And then your manuals, those are going to be necessary for when contractors come in and vendors, because they may need to look at the manual to understand how a particular unit works. Maybe it's something they hadn't seen before. You could have a very old unit, or maybe a very new unit that they've not seen, and they may need that manual to be able to work through it. Sometimes if your maintenance man is able to do it without having to call an expensive technician, by using that manual, they may be able to figure out a little bit about how that unit is going to work and how maybe they can fix it and not cost the library as much money down the road. So, but always have them available for sure. So we'll talk a little bit about maintaining your building. I know I kind of alluded to it a lot, how important it is to maintain it. And it is very important because, it's like your car or your home. If you don't maintain your library building, it's not going to be in the best shape. So one of the first things you need to do to keep your building well maintained is to keep it clean. Again, thousands, millions of people are going to walk through your building. That, people have varying degrees of cleanliness. Plus, it's just getting used. So you want to keep it clean. The pandemic, like I said, it really kind of shown how we clean our buildings and how we need to maybe do it better. And now I'm betting we're doing it really well. But ultimately, people are dirty. And I hate to say that, but they are. Even clean people are dirty. It's just, it is. It happens. Everything gets banged on. We have carpets that get cleaned. It can get gross. So you definitely want to make sure it's keeping clean. And so whether you hire someone to do it as an outside company or you have someone doing it internally and they're doing the work and cleaning, one thing you want to make sure to mention to them is have them notice if there's anything that needs to be done in the facility. Having someone walking through your building on a regular basis, whether it's daily, every couple of days, they're seeing it every day. So they're the ones that are going to notice if a light bulb is out or if there's a carpet is starting to fray. So definitely ask your cleaning person, whether it's someone you hire in-house, like a staff member, or if it's an external cleaning company, just ask them to kind of check that and keep notes for you so you can be aware of it and check it later. When we work in the libraries and that's not part of our job is to clean it and pay attention to that physical part of it. We're doing the work with our patrons. So we aren't always seeing the other stuff around us because we're busy getting books off the shelf and helping someone at the computer. That's what we do. So we need someone, we kind of need some backup on that. So definitely make sure you have someone being aware of that. And while you may be doing a regular walkthrough, sometimes you don't see everything because you're seeing a much larger picture. And then again, by making sure that you're catching things, you're going to solve some issues down the road. So we see this lovely picture, and obviously it is a burst pipe. So what do you do when you see something like this? The first thing you need to do is turn off the water. So that is why it's important to know where your shutoff valves are. The next thing you want to do is call your insurance company. They will tell you who to call to mitigate any water damage that you have. Because you're going to have to file a claim. If you have a burst pipe, you're going to have a claim. So hopefully it's just you caught it, the pipe burst the minute you walked in the door and there was only on the wall and no books were damaged, and then that's not a problem. But usually that doesn't happen. Usually the pipe burst on the coldest day of the year when the library is closed, or during the pandemic, the library gets flooded and no one knew it because no one was in the building, which has happened at the library I'm at now. $3 million later, they had to redo all of their entire basement because the basement was flooded almost 12 feet. So every system was messed up because the water had been in there for several days. So it can be a real problem. So turn the water off, know where your valves are. Most important thing, turn the water off, call your insurance company. And then we want to talk about our long-term maintenance. At some point, you will have to have something repaired or replaced, and it's going to be expensive. So you want to make sure that you have a plan for this. Sorry, the library I'm working at is calling and texting me, so it must be an issue. So like I said before, a new HVAC system can cost $60,000 or more. So you want to be prepared for this. Even if you know it's going to happen, you hopefully have money put aside. But sometimes it happens and you don't know, you're not aware of it. So you have to be able to repair that, and that replacement is going to have to come out of your budget somewhere. And but you have to figure out where. So you need to know this stuff, and then you need to know the costs associated with doing all the replacement. So that's why kind of capital improvement plan is very important to have created, so you have an idea of how this is going to go about. So you can start saving for those things. Again, if you know that your HVAC system has got a 10-year life left on it, start planning. How are you going to put money away for 10 years? And then if you are putting money away and then something happens, you have, for in another area, at least you have some money put away, even if it isn't it wasn't intended for you, at least you have some money put away. So you definitely want to make sure that you think about your long-term maintenance and having money put away. But then we have the problem of deferred maintenance. Now, these pictures are horrible. This is a library that I worked at about 2 years ago. It was the worst physical basement I've ever seen in my life. I love buildings, and I was scared walking in this building. If you look at that one area where there's duct tape, that's duct tape holding together the cracked asbestos covering of that pipe. Duct tape is wonderful. I use it for tons of stuff. It is not meant to be a permanent repair. It is meant to be temporary. This duct tape, I'd like to say, was recently put on, but that had been duct taping that particular pipe for well over 5 years. So that is not safe. It's a hazard. It's not only a physical hazard because asbestos is getting into the air, but it's a water hazard as well. If you look at the bottom, the picture on the left, that is a chiller, and that bottom line of rust is actually where the drip pan is, and the water has corroded through that bottom of the unit, so that the water that doesn't now necessarily go into the drip pan, it drips all over the floor. And now the floor, every time in the summer when the chiller is working, which is, during this weather, the floor has about 2 to 3 inches of water on it through the entire part of that basement, which is a problem because now you have standing water, which can cause people like me to fall in it, because I've walked in there and fell. But it also is going to be stagnant, and which means that animals love stagnant water, and we can get mice and rats and cockroaches and all kinds of wonderful things that you don't want in your library. And it's in an electrical area. So then you have electrical with standing water. It's a nightmare. This library needed to have their replacement repaired. They had a quote done in the late 90s. It at the time was a $6,000 repair because it was not repaired. I'm sorry, they were supposed to replace the whole unit. I'm sorry. It was $800,000 to replace the whole thing. And it's a huge library, a huge amount, because it had not been taken care of. And the mayor said, we don't have the money, we can't do it. So the library kind of squeaked it together, continued in for 15 plus years. When I was working there 2 years ago, I finally had another assessment done. That unit, 15, almost 20 years later, was over $3 million to replace. They definitely don't have the money now. So it's not getting repaired. I've been gone from that library 2 years. I was actually asking the director, and she's like, yeah, the mayor promised money, we're not going to get it. So I don't know what's going to happen, because to me, it's going to be a sick building at some point. So you have to be really aware of that. Make sure to take care of your deferred maintenance, because you don't want duct tape covering your cracked asbestos pipes, and you don't want to have water everywhere in your basement. It's just dangerous. So the next thing we want to make sure is you have a building inventory. This includes everything: your fixture, your furniture, your library equipment. A good way to get a building inventory to kind of get it started is to have a building appraisal. A lot of accountants may ask for this when you're getting your audit, to have a building appraisal done. They're not horribly expensive. I think my library had one done. It was 20,000 square foot facility. It was about $1,500. But what it does, it gave every single thing in the building, every piece of furniture, every equipment, every computer had a cost put to it. And then it was easy for us then to make sure we were insured properly, because we don't want to be overinsured. We don't want to be underinsured. We want to be insured just right, because you don't want to pay all that extra money if you don't have to. But you also want to be able to replace your contents in the event that you need to, and having a current cost is going to make the difference in that. So depending on your ability, you might want to get a building appraisal done. And then your auditor will use that as a depreciation schedule as well when they're doing the audit, which gives you a continued current value of your building. So there are appraisals out, people that do library appraisals out there. I'm sure the library system can give you some names of companies in your area that will do appraisals. And then I had talked earlier about your capital improvement plan. So this is a kind of a screenshot of what one looks like. And it's all of the things within your building that has your roof, your windows, your parking lot, and of signs. You have a value to it, and you can kind of put aside each year how much you plan on putting aside for those repairs. And again, I'll send a copy to Ellen so she can get that out to you so you can see it. It can take a lot of time to gather this, especially if you've built a new library, it's easy because you're going to start from zero. But if you're coming into a library, it could take a year, 2 years to put it together, but that's okay. It's a living document. And the whole goal is that you have data. So you may, as you're getting repairs done, you can start asking those questions. It's something that's always in the back of your mind when you're talking to your vendors. You can always start asking those questions and start filling in your document. You know, there's no requirement that has to be done right now. There's no requirement to have it at all. It's just a good tool to have for your future planning. And then another thing that you want to have is a technology replacement plan. I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have computers in libraries. Yes, I'm that old. I remember the Gaylord machine and how easy it was to use. But now technology is a big part of our budget. We saw with the pandemic, it was even more important to keep engaged with our patrons, and thank God we had it. So we could still be relevant to our patrons even when we were closed down for all those months that we were closed. Our patrons, depending on your community and the economic viability of your community, needs technology for what they do. They come in the library to file unemployment. They come in the library to find jobs. They're coming in to study and to do, use the computers to take tests, things of that nature. So it's a huge part of our life now. And having a technology replacement plan, oh, sorry, I went too far. Having a technology replacement plan is going to help you manage those costs as you move forward. So what this plan does is it will give you, kind of list all of the technology you have in your library, from your computers to your servers, if you have servers, your printers, your copiers, everything that is technology based, and how long their lifespan is and when you should be cycling them out and replacing them. You don't want to do it everything at the same time because it's very expensive. When you build a new library, I know the technology when I built my library was a significant part of that budget. And but then everything is new and shiny, but then things do break down. You have to kind of start rolling computer replacements and things of that nature, but you need to make it affordable as well. And if you can get a grant to replace it, that's great, but grants are not always readily available. So you need to have a plan on how you're going to do that. So, and again, I can get you a copy of the technology replacement plan as well. And then, as I stated earlier, if you are lucky enough to get to build a new library, like I was, you may not love it. I loved it. I thought it was, I loved it. I had my knee replaced, and 2 weeks later, after surgery, I was like on my walker going through the building because I loved it so much. They had to build a ramp for me to get into the building, but they did it. It's a huge project, and it can be daunting for most people who do it. We don't learn about how to build new libraries in library school. If you've gone to library school, they don't really talk about it. It's a lot of work. You need your professionals. I could give a whole day on it. But what I'm going to talk today is just kind of the few things you really need to know, the basics. You're going to have your professionals who are going to come in and they're going to help you with that. So that's a huge plus. So the first thing you need to know is that whenever you have any kind of a building project, whether it's a new building or a renovation or remodel, any capital project that costs over $25,000 must go to public bid. It is not a choice. That is the law. It has changed. It used to be 15,000, went up to 20. Now it's 25. So you have to go to public bid. Your architect, if you have an architect that's working on a larger project, they will usually create those bid documents for you. If you're doing a smaller project yourself, like replacing your carpet, you can write those bid documents yourself. The one thing about libraries that I love is that we love to share. You can just throw out on your director's list or, ask your system, hey, do you know anyone who's done an RFP for carpet replacement? Somebody's done it, and they'll send it to you. And then you can just kind of tweak it for your needs. You will need to advertise that bid, that process out to the public, whether it's through your website and your paper. There are requirements on where to do that. I'm going to check with your attorney. You want to make sure that if it's a major renovation, you're going to need contractors. You want to get it out on the Dodge Report. That is a portal where contractors have access to. They can look for all kind of jobs on there. Usually your architect can do that. They will get it on the Dodge Report for you. It's kind of interesting. I've always known about Dodge Report, but I like to watch that process. For me, like I said, I love buildings. It was very interesting to watch. So because you do need to make sure that that bid process, that that option is out there for anyone who wants to submit a proposal. If you have a smaller project, you can also email vendors in your area, like your carpet installers, or if you're doing moving furniture or shelving furniture, moving, things of that nature. Often you're going to have the blueprints and the job scope must also be made available to the public so that they can review it and bid. So having them available at the library for someone to come in and view, they need to be made available. You should have it on your website if you have that, at least, not the blueprints, obviously, but the job scope, and that the blueprints are available at the website, at the library. All bids, part of that bidding process is that there is a time frame that bids can be submitted, and then they are due on a certain day and time. And anyone who submits after that day and time is not eligible because you have a definite closing time. So, and normally on the day that they're due, or perhaps the next day, you have an open reading of the bids. This is a public meeting. It's oftentimes after the bids are due. For smaller jobs, might be a little bigger if you're doing a whole library building, but they're open to the public. All the contractors usually come who've submitted bids, and each bid and all the numbers have to be read out and it's recorded. Those are then made available to all the people who request those. Do know, some people say you have to accept the lowest bidder. You do not. It has to be the lowest qualified bidder. So when you are doing your bid process, you want to make sure that you list the specific qualifications you want for your bidder. Some libraries are some communities are very focused on equity and on diversity, and some may require that that people have minority-owned businesses. That may be a requirement. So you want to make sure that you're very specific on your qualifications. If you're doing you want to make sure that whoever's doing the work in your library has done that work before, that they have done several projects of a certain amount of money. So if you're building a $6 million library, you want to make sure that that company has built a $6 million library, not a $250,000 library, because it's going to be a different scope. You want to make sure that they are going to be insured and they have the proper amount of insurance. I'll talk a little bit more insurance in a minute. You also want to make sure that they have done library buildings. The library that I'm working at now, I walked in, I'm like, there's no way a library architect did this building. It is the most non-functional building. And the fact that they have a $7,000 electric bill, they weren't thinking about the cost that libraries have on a daily basis. So all of these, I make sure they're qualified. If the people who put in bids don't meet all the qualifications and they may be the lowest bidder, you are not required to take them. You are taking the lowest qualified bidder. And again, your architect will help you with that, or your professionals in that sense. Be sure that you do a reference check on your contractors before you sign a contract. You want to make sure that they actually do the job well, that they're not cutting corners, that they've done that type of project before. How are they to work with you? I found that I've had less of this issue myself, but a lot of contractors, if you're a female, don't really talk, they kind of mansplain. I grew up in the construction field, so I had no issues with my building. I could talk construction talk because I grew up in it. My family talked about it at the dinner table, but a lot of contractors will talk contract speak and we don't know it. So ask that question, how are they in dealing with you if you are a female library director, or, ultimately you hold the purse strings. I think people forget that. The library director or the board, they're in charge. They're the ones that hold the money. So you have some power, believe it or not. It isn't all about what the contractors are doing, but trust your professionals, do reference checks, make sure that they follow the codes, that they paid their subcontractors, that they aren't going to go file for bankruptcy anytime soon, that they were paying everyone prevailing wage, which I'll talk about in a sec. Did they come in on time? Because if they don't, and it's going to cost you more money. Did they have a lot of change orders? Were there a lot of things like, oh, we can't do this, we're going to do this? That's a huge amount of money. Your projects, they're a lot of money and it's public funds. So you need to make sure that you are spending them being the best fiscal steward for those monies. So these are all questions that you want to make sure to ask when you're doing your reference checks. So I had mentioned prevailing wage just a minute ago. Any publicly funded entity, be it a school, a village, a park district, a library, we are required to pay our vendors who work on our buildings the local prevailing wage. Usually the prevailing wage is defined as the hourly wage, usually benefits and overtime paid to majority of workers laborers, and mechanics within a particular area. Normally, we know it as the union wage scale. It is your job as library director or manager of this project that your vendors are paying their workers the local prevailing wage. This is especially important during construction project. This doesn't include things like your ongoing maintenance, like when you have your HVAC maintained or you're getting your grass cut. However, it can be like, so let's use landscaping as an example. You do have to pay prevailing wage in some instances when it comes to landscaping. And here's an example. It's the original installation of landscape materials in connection with covered work, including buildings or structures. Your landscaping of an old or new site in conjunction with covered work involving underpinning, lagging, bracing, propping, or shoring. It's like if you're putting up a pergola, things like that, or any kind of structures. And then landscaping in connection with covered work involving earth moving and grading. So if you're doing like a full, doing a whole project area and you're bringing in machines to move the earth away and to grade it, things like that. That's all prevailing wage, and you're going to have to pay union scale for that. So the contractors and subcontractors are required during a building project to submit to you on a monthly basis the work that is being performed and the certified payroll that they are paying their people. It's especially important during your building project. Other unions will check up on this. I kept it all in a binder, every certified payroll I received during my building project. And the other unions were checking on it. They were definitely calling and making sure that those subcontractors were checking. So, Illinois, sorry, I keep hitting my mouse. Illinois is a very union heavy state. So the unions are very active. So we want to make sure that we're complying with all the rules and laws that we have in the state, and especially regarding unions, because they build our buildings. So do know that in June, so this month, all public bodies should pass a prevailing wage ordinance, which states that they comply with the local prevailing wage and they need to make it public. In the past, we used to have to publish it in the paper, but now we don't have to do that because it used to be quite expensive. Now we can just post it on our website with a link to the county's list of prevailing wages, and then we're done and we're compliant with that law. So let's talk a little bit about insurance. I love insurance. It sounds kind of dorky, but I do. I like insurance. And there's a lot of insurances that you need in libraries. So I want to talk about the first one, which is builder's risk. This is something that if you are doing a new construction, a remodel, or a renovation, you should make sure you have builder's risk insurance. And what this does, while your contractors have to be insured as well, and they should have your certificate of insurance from them, the library needs to carry some builder's risk insurance, and your insurance company will work with you because it's going to be based on the project cost. In the event that there's an issue that arises. It comes in handy. When I was building my library back in 2000 and I can't remember the date, 2004 or 5, I think, whatever it was. Our copper was stolen twice. So we had it fenced in. Certain people had access to it. Our building was in the middle of a 14-acre field, and twice the copper rolls were stolen. It was a lot of money. Copper was expensive. And it fortunately was not in the buildings yet, because like the Markham Library up near me, the copper was literally stolen. They pulled the pipes out of the walls and tore the walls up to get the copper out. I didn't have that problem. They just took the rolls. So at least we didn't have any internal damage. But the builder's risk insurance paid for that twice. So you definitely want to make sure you have it. It's not an inexpensive cost, but it's necessary because you don't want, you want to be able to cover those costs in the event of that situation. So definitely make sure that you have it or ask about it when you're doing a new construction, a remodel, or a renovation. The next is your liability insurance. And the builder's risk comes under your liability insurance. We all know these are, all libraries should have this. You should have liability insurance. What this is for any of those issues that happen within your building, whether you have slip or falls. It covers a lot. Your liability insurance is a huge umbrella of a lot of different coverages. Some that are building related, some that are not. So I'm going to go through the basics, and then you'll have some that are building related, some that are not. One of the first things you should do if you become a new director is to find out who your insurance company is, who the main contact is, their 800 number for their 24/7 claims, and what you are covered for. You want to make sure you have that coverage. and that you have enough coverage, that you are getting everything that you need and you're not overinsured or underinsured. If you're not sure what kind of coverages that you need or should have, check with your village or your city or your school district, all your entities within your community, because they're going to need the same kind of coverage because they're a public body. And they're going to maybe give you some ideas of people to call if you aren't comfortable with your insurance company, or maybe you want to use a different one, whatever the case, they can kind of help you out with that. You want to make sure that you get a number of quotes to make sure you're getting and compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. And there are different ways to get insurance. A lot of libraries will use their local agents because you want to keep your work local. Just make sure that you're getting all the coverages that you need. Library that I was working at recently had State Farm, but State Farm didn't have, wasn't able to bond our treasurer. So we ended up not having, it was not good. We had to figure out another way to do that. We also had to pay quite a bit of money for our directors and officers. So I'm going to talk about in a sec. So make sure that your local agents are giving you the coverage you need. There are larger agencies out there. A lot of them will go to ALA or ILA, so you can check them out there. And then also there's the option of like an insurance pool where you have a lot of smaller libraries that may be in, that maybe it's expensive to get a policy on their own, but if they merge together, they can get better cost savings by being in a pool. LIRA, which is the Libraries of Illinois Risk Agency, that's the one that ILA has kind of put together. I have been a member of that, and I've always been happy with it because you have a lot of insurance. For a smaller library, they may be a little more expensive, but you do get a lot of coverage and a lot of help in doing some stuff as well. So just look at different ways to get your insurance and make sure that you are insured for the appropriate amount that you have. Make sure you're covered for replacement, not actual cost, but replacements, things of that nature. So an insurance that is not necessarily board building related, but it comes under your liability as directors and officers. This covers your director and your board in the event that they make some errors in a work that they've done. Not intentional or criminal acts, but accidental acts. The next is your flood insurance. Every library probably has it, but you want to make sure if you have flood insurance, check if you're in a floodplain. Remember when all of that flooding happened in Texas and all the people that had flood insurance found out because they're in a floodplain that it didn't matter? So you want to make sure, check your flood insurance and find out what it actually covers. And if you're in a floodplain, does it cover it? Which to me makes sense. You're in a floodplain, you get flood insurance, but apparently that's not how insurance works. So just kind of be sure to check that and see. The next is cybersecurity. Oh, shoot, sorry, cybersecurity. So there's been a lot of hacks. We've been seeing this going on. You know, Target was hacked. The health insurance companies are being hacked. Everyone's getting hacked. Villages get hacked. Libraries get hacked. And if you get hacked and you don't have insurance to cover the needs of that, it can be expensive. If you are housing patron information on your patron database, so if you have an ILS, make sure to ask this if they have cyber and security insurance, because if the patron information is made available, or if that information is compromised in some way, you're required to pay for credit monitoring for at least a year for each person. That can be really expensive. Cybersecurity and coverage covers that. So you want to just make sure if what you have, if you have it, and it can be kind of expensive, but since everybody can get hacked these days and it's easier and easier, even though we put up all these safeguards, it still happens. So you just want to check to see if you can get some cybersecurity and what it covers. And the next is government crime. Your library should have a treasurer's bond. Your treasurer should be bonded for 50% of your budget. But not everyone can get bonded. Sometimes the treasurer, it's on their personal financial information. Sometimes they can't get bonded. So a lot of libraries have moved away from the treasurer's bond and are now getting government crime. This is kind of a more extensive coverage. It covers not only your treasurer, but your full board and your staff. So I think it's a better coverage, albeit it can be a little expensive. But again, another coverage it's covered under your liability umbrella, but not necessarily building related. And then we have the importance of just kind of keeping everything straight. You want to make sure you keep track of all your systems, your equipment, and it can be difficult. Like I said, I keep talking about checklists. Checklists are important. You want to make sure that everything is being done everything is being checked. Your maintenance person has a list of all the things that they're supposed to be checking on a regular basis. You want to make sure your cleaning company is cleaning all the things that they're supposed to be doing. And you just want to make sure you're keeping that done on a regular basis. So create your checklists and use them. Don't just put them in, just don't put them on a clipboard and leave them in back. Use them because it's going to be imperative while you're working on your building and maintaining that building. And then there are other people that you need to be aware to keep up with in the building. Who needs to know what's in your building? I mean, you have your maintenance staff certainly should know all the stuff that's going on in your building. You have your managers, they should know everything about the building as well, as much as they can. They may not know like this total ins and outs, but they should know where the services are coming in. Who are the key vendors? So if they're working that day and you're not available, your maintenance guy's not available, who do they call when the pipe bursts, besides the insurance company first thing? If you have other staff who may not be managers, but they're key to operations of the library, or they live closer than anyone else, they get to the building first if there's an issue. All of these people need to know the ins and outs of your building. Your board also, like I said, should need to know the ins and outs of your building. So you definitely want to make sure you're letting all of them know. They need to know all the insurance phone numbers, who to call, your policy number, things like that. That should all be kept someplace where they can get access to it quickly. So that was a pretty quick presentation. But what I talked about was, the importance of getting to know your building inside and out, maintaining your building, and how important it is to do that, because if you don't maintain your building, it is going to cost you a lot of money down the road. It's not going to be inexpensive to start, but if you don't do it, it's going to be a lot of money down the road. And then it's going to take money away from other areas that you need to spend money in, like your collections and your staff. And then, of course, you want to make sure to keep every single person who needs to know in the know, so that they can make sure that they can take care of that building in your absence. So with that, I hope everyone is ready to handle building issues. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the my book that my co-author Kate Hall and I have put out, Public Library Directors Toolkit. And then the HR toolkit, which just was hot off the presses last week. I got my box on Friday when I got home from Directors University. If you choose to purchase that book or either book, there is a discount code, which is that red star. It's the PLDT22, gives you $5 off if you order through ALA. If you're an ALA member, you get 10% off plus the $5 off. So that is a little bit of a savings for you. It kind of saves for shipping. So if you have any questions and you want to contact me, here's my email, kathyparker, kathypconsult@gmail.com. And I can give you my phone number if you want to contact me, but the email is the easiest way. So I'm going to stop sharing. And if there's any questions or comments, I'll be able to take questions if anyone needs any. If anyone asks any questions.
If you have any questions, you can just pop them in the chat.
Where is my chat here? Here we go. Okay. No questions. I did it well. Maybe I did a good job. I'm hoping. So.
No, Kathy, I took a lot of notes.
Oh, your condo. Well, I have a very specific taste, but sure, I'll be happy to take your money to remodel. I love this work. I'm getting ready to redo my garage. I'm going to tear it down and start over. So I'm working on getting quotes for my garage too. So thank you, Leah. I appreciate that.
I learned a lot, Kathy. I'd never heard FFE before.
FF&E, yeah. First time I heard, I'm like, what the heck is that? But furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Yeah. And again, I will send Ellen all the documents I said I would. I'll send them to her later today.
Kathy, and with sharing your email with people, I wouldn't be surprised if you get some follow-up questions about some real specific situations. So.
And I'm fine with that. If you do, just say that you heard me speak at IHLS, just because sometimes I forget. And we just had Directors University, and I kind of want to make sure I have my mind bucket in the right area. So
let me make sure we've got everything. Yep, I think we do. So thank you, Kathy. Thank you for joining us today.
We appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
And we can turn the program over to Leslie now, and she'll share greetings with everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. And thank you so much to Kathy for taking the time to talk to us about some rather pertinent issues. It seems like everybody with the building has to take care of those preventive maintenance issues first. So Ellen asked me to talk today a little bit, just give you a little update on where things are at with the library system right now, because we have already submitted our FY 2023 System Area Per Capita Grant application. We are awaiting the feedback from the state library, which should be in the form of an approval, or there may be some follow-up questions we need to take care of as well. And we will certainly address those. In addition to that, at the system level, we have our final board meeting of the fiscal year next Tuesday evening. It's at 5 p.m. It is on Zoom, and you can find the contact information on our website under board. If you're interested in attending, we'd love to have you attend. We will be saying goodbye to two board members at that meeting. One is Chris Lundquist. She is with the Watseka Public Library, and Chris has been with us a little more than a year, I believe. And then the second person we'll be saying goodbye to is a longtime board member. Her name is Bev Obert. She's with the Atwood Public Library District, I believe, and also a former library system staffer. So Bev's been on the board 6 years, and since that's the limit, you have to take 2 years off, and then hopefully she'll want to join us again in 2 more years for another tour on the board. Also, we will be welcoming 2 new board members. They won't be seated until the July meeting, but we do welcome them to the June board meeting. That is Kevin Kelsey. He's with Mahomet Public Library, and Linda McDonald. She is with the 6 Mile Regional Library District in Granite City. And if Linda's name sounds familiar, she's another long-term IHLS board member and who's returning to the board. So we're thrilled to have both of those public library trustees join us, and starting next month. And that's about all I have for you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Leslie. And we can give the floor to Cassandra Thompson, who has a brief share update for us.
Thank you so much, Ellen. I'm sorry, let me get my, oh, maybe not. Can everybody hear me at least?
Yep.
Great,
Perfectly.
thank you. Okay, I do have just a few notes for today. The first is that for any of our catalogers out there, you might have gotten an email today, but just to let you know, our bibliographic services manager, Jennifer Ball, will be heading off for maternity leave starting tomorrow afternoon. And so if you have any questions, you can reach out to our cataloger, Josh Zink. And or you can also reach out to me, and I'll make sure that you get to the correct person. With that, one of the tasks that we do around the first of our fiscal year is cataloging CE hours for our catalogers. We made the decision just to give a little bit of grace to Jennifer, as well as all of our catalogers out there. So you'll have a little bit of extra time to get those hours completed. And if you have any questions of how many hours you still might need for this year, if you reach out to Jennifer before tomorrow, she'll be able to tell you where you're at. But otherwise, she will be contacting everyone when she returns in late August. I also just wanted to let you all know that we are so excited right now. We just did a review of our Kit and Caboodle program, which is the resource sharing program where you can reserve kits for programming, book clubs, and things like that. We actually have 61 kits, and that's all on our share website at Kit and Caboodle. That's where you go to make the reservation. So there's a tab right at the top. And we actually just got a donation of, I think, 18 to 20 additional kits. So we will be adding more. And we are planning on investing in the program, so actually purchasing some titles for book clubs. So it's a great program. If you're interested, take a look today. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help. I do also want to let everyone know that the Share Mobile Library is gearing up to start self-service for those libraries that want it with their custom template as of July 1. And so we'll be sending out information to those libraries that will be using it. But just to clarify, self-service will only be available to libraries that are using those custom templates and those patrons at their library. So if Decatur is one of the libraries that is participating in that, if they went to a local library in another town, their self-service would not work at your branches. But I did want to just clarify that with you today. And then last but not least, we are so excited that we do have some additional funds for Cloud Library. With your annual agreements, we did have an option that if you wanted to include more funds to support the program, specifically for our pay-per-use or to reduce holds for ordering, but you didn't necessarily have the time to invest staff time to actually doing the purchasing over and above what you normally put in for your annual fee, that you do have the option now to do that. You can just tell us to bill you for additional fees to go into that program. I am so impressed that we had over $4,000 for people that wanted to invest some additional expenditures into Cloud Library. So thank you for everyone who participated, and it's not too late. So if you have funds that you'd like to include to reduce those hold times to expand the pay-per-use program, you're more than welcome to do that. And it's not something that just has to start on July 1. If you are ending your fiscal year and you realize you have some additional funds that you'd like to invest in digital resources or collections, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. We can do that at any time. So again, I was just so impressed by that. And I'm so excited that we have those additional funds to invest in our collection this next year. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I don't see any coming in, Cassandra. And please know that any of us who have updates today, you can always follow up with us anytime after we finish up this morning. So now I'm going to ask Sarah Taylor to talk to you about what's going on in delivery this month.
Hello, everyone. I am filling in for Susan Palmer today, who's out. I'm the administrative assistant based in Edwardsville for operations, if you haven't seen me before. I just wanted to give a quick update about the delivery on the go service, or DOGS, and how well this service is going since the addition of the orange bags at the end of April. Comparing April to May, out of the Carbondale hub, we did 133 more DOGS deliveries in May than in April. Out of the Champaign hub, we did 426 more. And out of the Edwardsville hub, we did 556 more. So just in May, we did 1,115 more same day, same route deliveries. And so we owe that success to all the libraries who've been participating in that. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah. And I can wind up the morning with a couple updates. One is, please don't forget to register for the last in our series of HR Source offerings, which will be on June 22nd. And the topic is legal issues for libraries. So certainly something that is of interest to all of us. The arrangement we have with HR Source is that if you're registered, you have the ability to watch the webinar live or also online for the following 7 days, but you do have to be registered to participate in that. Last week, 12 of our library directors had the opportunity to participate in Director's U. It was a great week. Kathy was there with us, and it was co-chaired by Bobby Perryman. We're going to have a presentation at our board meeting next week that will kind of outline the participants and the system involvement in Director's U. So if it's something you haven't experienced yet, please put it on the calendar for next year. And they are still accepting applications for Director's U 2.0, which will be held in August. And you can find that information on the ILA website. The registration for the Association for Rural and Small Libraries Conference to be held in Chattanooga, Tennessee, opened up on Monday, Tuesday of this week, the 14th of this week. And we're really excited about that. This is a conference that many of our members participate in and feel that it meets their needs. So if it's something you'd like to explore, please check out their website. And again, it's the Association of Rural and Small Libraries, and you can find out more about that conference. We are delighted at the Illinois Heartland Library System to welcome our new communications director, Carol Hogan Downey. She started recently and we're happy to have her on board. A little sad that Danielle has left the general side of operations and is now working on the share side, but Danielle's going to do a great job in that position. So we're happy with the change. And finally, I can't tell you all how wonderful it was to be really together for Directors U, and everybody talked about how nice it was to be out and together and to have those opportunities to network, to talk about all the kinds of things that, you know, we talk about over lunch or in a car together or all those kinds of things. So that's just another way to say we are getting out more. System staff is attending networking meetings. We're going to be doing site visits more, and it's a happy time in system work after the last 2 years. And finally, I hope you've seen it, but we do have a save the date for Member Day. It will be virtual again. Boy, and given gas prices, that might have been the right decision to make for now. But it will be November 18th. So just mark that on your calendar and plan on joining us for another, hopefully education-filled event. So that's what we have from the system level. Does anybody have any questions for any of us? We're happy to talk about it. And feel free to unmute your microphone if you do. Anybody have any announcements they'd like to share about anything going on at their libraries? Okay, then it's 11:30 just about, and I think we can call it a day. Hopefully this group can gather back together on the 3rd Thursday of July with another offering. And other than that, we'll continue our directors chats every Thursday. So thank you everybody for participating. And it was a great morning. I learned a lot. Take care, everyone.